Oh, hey, everybody. It's a big one. This is the annual Chicago Cubs season preview. My name is Kevin McCaffrey. That's Adam Mamwala. How are you, Adam?
I'm doing well. This is, I think this is number 6 for us, I believe. The first one would have been in 2018. So this is the 6th annual Will the Cubs win a playoff game this year
Oh,
tradition.
yeah.
Joined by none other than Ken Schultz.
Yes, we got the big guest. Ken Schultz is here today, the annual season preview guest. Have you been on all of them, Ken?
As far as I know, so maybe I'm the curse.
That can't
It
be.
is. It's so it is such a feels like a statistical anomaly that the whole time we've been doing this, they have yet to win a playoff game. But that is a really good way of summing up how this era has been, and I mean it's only getting better. So
I'd love
exciting.
to. I'd love to blame ourselves, but there have been a not insignificant amount of 6-year periods in the Cubs' history where they did not make or win a playoff game. So.
If you could
Most of them,
examine somehow
yeah.
the trajectory of mood from the mood trajectory of this podcast from, say, the first, I don't know, 3, maybe even 4 years of recording season previews to now, it is just I'll call it Sybil is the best way to describe it. Just top, doing great, feeling good about these guys. Yep. Still, Rizzo's going to hit 30 every year, going to hit, and bottom out. And that's where we are right now.
Yes, it is, man. Could you imagine if we started a podcast in 1946? That would have been amazing. Would have been just we'd be first of all amazing to invent podcasts, and secondly we would have been feeling like, man, is it us? It's the early 80s here, and I feel like we should have gotten a World Series.
Just sending out sad Morse code.
Guys, I think Frankie Baumholtz is going to kill it this year.
God, have you heard about the Bat Lab? So we're gonna we have a series of categories that we sort of break the preview down into. Also, if my internet does get unstable, I do want to say that is because I am reporting live from a Super 8 and Super matter of opinion, but Super 8 in Northwest Arkansas. And, I'm told I'm being put up in this hotel just to reset the luxury tax levels, and that next year we might go all in on a Wyndham. But for right now, I might be unstable here. So apologies.
Well, for the record, though, Jason Hayward did try to upgrade Kevin to a suite, but was told that they do not have that at the Super 8 hotel.
That guy's a class act. As soon as he made the Dodgers roster, he gave it a shot. But
he does call Kevin before every show to give him a speech, though.
And I really could use it too. We'll probably drop this episode right after we're done with it. So, guys, if you are in Northwest Arkansas, come see the effects of the speech tonight in Lowell at the Grove. 2 shows tonight. So any opening thoughts before, Adam, you take us into the category by category breakdown of things?
Well, I mean, I know Ken did request that we have an ennui segment.
Yes.
Because that, it is fitting. So we can do it one of 2 ways. We can start with the predictions and then lament and just discuss afterwards, or we can each give kind of an opening statement as if we're in court. Let's start with this. All right. Let's say scale of 1 to 10. 10 being, we're heading into the 2016 season. Excitement is as high as it's ever been. What is your personal level of excitement, 1 to 10, heading into this season, just in terms of like watching the Cubs? How excited are you? Because I feel like I'm at like a 5, and I don't love being there. But I'm curious to see where you guys are.
Tone and texture has an exfoliating DHA and prebiotic oats.
Ken, we
We are brought to you.
We do not want to hear about exfoliating cream. We've reached out to the good folks at CeraVe, and they do not want for us to sponsor their lotion.
That is what I get for putting Baseball Reference on in the background, apparently, and trying to research this goddamn thing. So,
Baseball Reference has had enough of our dilly-dallying and was getting to the stats.
Your skin is drying out like the Cubs playoff chances. How about that for a second?
Yeah, it's tough. I'll rank it on a number, but I do want people to continue listening. So that is my conflict here. I'm excited to do this podcast and to talk about my thoughts and feelings on this year. I've researched, I've been following everything. So you're getting informed people here. My excitement for the year is I'll say 2 because I don't know that it's ever been a 1. I don't know if because I'm going to watch baseball. I know what's going on with the Cubs. I have been following and reading everything. So I think that bumps it up over a 1, but I cannot remember a time where I was less excited about the moment in my 40 years. So I'll say I'll leave it at that to leave more for later, I guess, but I'm happy to be here with you guys.
Yeah. So I'll divide my answer into 2 parts. Baseball overall, 10. Like
Great.
consistently. Like this is the time of year where I am one of my most exciting times. And that doesn't, I mean, how the Cubs are going to do during the year does not apply to my level of excitement for the fact that baseball is back, especially just coming off of the World Baseball Classic high that we all just experienced this past week.
Right.
And the fact that they did it on the mic drop at bat of Shohei Ohtani striking out Mike Trout at the very end, the modern day Satchel Paige versus Josh Gibson, you cannot have a better lead into a season. In terms of the Cubs, I feel like I'm having to talk myself into a 4 is the best way to kind of describe it. That I don't
that just describes a lot of dating as well.
Oh my God, yes.
Talking yourself into a 4. It's last call on the Cubs.
We're trying to find as many reasons as possible for me to weep on this podcast, I guess.
My excitement about dating in general is a 10. The people I've seen, well...
It's like when I open the door and I see Eric Hosmer standing there and I go, huh, you don't look like your profile picture at all. Profile picture is of you scoring the tying run in the 2015 World Series, and somehow it doesn't resemble that at all, Eric Hosmer.
You're making how much money? That's so funny. That's great.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like it kind of fluctuates day to day, and this was something I was going to kind of get into with our ennui talk. I find that game to game, it really depends on how much my mind reverts back to my mindset from last year, which was kind of 24/7 fuck Jed whenever the Cubs are on. And there are games where it's like that. Oddly enough, like when Pete Crow Armstrong makes an outstanding catch in center field, like I have the immediate emotional response of, oh, that's awesome, when you see it viscerally. And then my mind goes, and especially when I hear like Sutcliffe in the analysis go, we just want to say, thanks, Javi Baez, for getting us Pete Crow Armstrong. And my brain just goes, fuck all of this. So I find that there are days like that. And then there are days where, like, if I do my deep breathing exercises and I kind of remember, stay focused on what's in front of you, what's going on in the present tense, then I'm fine. And I get more into the game, more involved emotionally. So I guess the best way to describe the 2023 Cubs is if you do your meditation, you'll be okay.
I think that's great. I think, Ken, you may bump me up to a 3.
Doing the Lord's work here.
Yeah, I think my feeling on the Cubs in general is that when I think of the 3 Chicago sports teams I follow, which omits the Blackhawks because I just don't follow hockey, I am most optimistic about the Bears, and the reason for that is they were atrocious last year, but I can see what they're trying to do in the same way that I could see what the Cubs are trying to do in 2012 and 2013. And that, when I watch the Bulls right now, or when I think about this coming Cubs season, the worst place to be in sports, in all major sports, is right in the middle. And this Cubs team feels very much like the best prediction for this team could be 81 and 81. Like it could be 5 games better. It could be 5 to 10 games worse. We don't know. I guess we'll see where our predictions lie. But it's incredibly frustrating when you're just treading water. Yeah. Like how much can I invest in a team that doesn't seem to be investing as much in itself or in me as a fan?
I think that's what the sort of central nugget of my frustration is the level of ambition here. Is that I feel like this is a mid-market level ambition that we've seen over the last couple of years. Even the free agents they've landed have been at the bottom of every tier that they're shopping in. I mean, they can say Dansby was our number one choice all along, and okay, Dansby Swanson is good. That's possible, but it's weird that they keep ending up with the cheapest version of any category they're looking at, and that is not what a team like this should be doing. And when we look at that, I see Obvious Shirts doing great stuff, whatever. This is not a shot at Obvious Shirts, but I see them photoshopping Shohei Ohtani after that amazing WBC into a Cubs jersey. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. The Cubs were the only non-West Coast finalist for his services when he came over in the first place. But that was when the Cubs were in a position to entice a talent like that. And that is one of the ultimately frustrating things about where they are now for me, is that what they have done has not only sort of buried the last couple years, but it's put themselves in a position where Shohei Ohtani is not an option. Why would he come here? Like I just straight up I would love to see it. That would change. That would absolutely spike everything, because there is no more ambitious move than finding and landing a Shohei Ohtani. But I think the choices they've made leading up to that, leading up to this moment, have left them out of the top level of ambition like that. So.
And adding another layer of frustration to the signings this offseason is that most of them, I think we'd agree, like in the best case scenario, kind of what Adam was saying, it takes us from a 74 win team to like one that maybe 83 or 84, which better than not. I mean, winning more games than not feels like it would be more fun to watch.
Yeah.
But like a lot of these moves, like if you made their equivalent in, say, 2019, or even going into the pandemic season 2020, like that's the kind of thing that when you had a core together and you bring in like a Jamison Tyon, that's something that those teams were desperately crying out for. And that's right. When the Cubs, in the most frustrating way possible, said, no, we are holding the budget line, and we're not going to allow you to even like come close to anything more than a Daniel Descalso.
Yeah,
so it feels like a lot like closing the barn doors after the horses have left at this point.
Yeah, it's making a whole team out of complementary moves, but
right. And to that end, like I think the one thing that we forget when we talk about how little the Cubs spent at certain times is that there were times where they did go out and make trades that were very helpful, or should have been. Like trading for Nick Castellanos obviously was a huge help to that team, even though they crumbled at the end. And signing Craig Kimbrell and bringing him in, it's great, but like he's really struggled. And if you had signed him earlier, there's a chance that doesn't happen. So it's like everything that they do is just a little bit too late, or just not doing enough at the moment. That like the inflection point that we've talked about a million times is just not going after Harper or Machado. Like Machado, obviously there wasn't as much of a case for in terms of like fit on that team, but to not go after Harper in that moment, like that, I think that is the moment in this era of Cubdom that kind of changed everything.
Yeah, that and using, I guess, the savings of not going after Harper to extend nobody after that as well. Like it felt like they could have picked either lane and instead just decided to go full on right into the median at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And even with the players they traded, they never made the brave choice to trade one at a higher level of value, which would have been hard to take. But also, you traded Chris Bryant a year earlier if you're going to trade him anyway, and maybe you cycle through and get us in a better place. But hey, we are where we are. So Adam, do you want to start the categories of the way we preview this thing? Let's do
it. It seems like we didn't do as many last year as we had in previous years. I wonder why, but we can feel free to add any at any point. It's literally making me sad as I'm looking at our predictions from last year with the name Contreras on it. But let's leave that in the past. Cubs. Let's start with Cubs team MVP. Let's start with a positive one. Who you got, Kevin and Ken?
Well, let's do the rotation. Ken is our guest. You hit lead off.
All right.
You go, we go.
I think so. In trying to come up with like the name for this one, every instinct I had told me it's got to be Seiya, but I'm going to actually go with Ian Happ.
Nice.
And I'm going to use kind of a very Jed Hoyer way of thinking that Ian Happ, when you are a player who is clearly playing at a great level and making noises that you definitely want to stick around this team, unfortunately, that means you're gone. That's kind of the way things seem to work, and in the Cubs in this misbegotten era right now. But Hap, I think a lot of people, I think JD pointed to that in his mind, kind of a candidate for regression because his BABIP, and I called it baseball reference for a reason, so I should check that out. That his BABIP last year was a super high 336. So yeah, you would think that based on that, we might be getting more towards he and Hap from 2021 than a more inconsistent one. However, Ian Happ's career BABIP is 320.
Oh,
So that to me makes me think, okay, yeah, I mean, 336, that is most likely going to fall back a little bit. And it fluctuates year to year, definitely. But the fact that it's overall that high makes me think that, yeah, maybe he might not regress nearly as much. And with the way the lineup is in 2023, not regressing from a career year feels like kind of an MVP level.
yeah.
So I'm going to stick with that.
And also just BABIP wise, without the shift this year, I mean, I think there's a decent chance that we see a lot of BABIPs go up, you know.
Yeah.
I
and
would
that
love
makes for
to
better
know.
baseball.
Yeah, I would love to see like some sort of, maybe Sarah Sanchez can get on this. I feel like that's right up her alley. But like, why that is that his BABIP is where it is for his career. My guess would be that he's like he has been a very strikeout heavy guy at times, but when he makes contact, it's often good contact. So I'm thinking if you were to look at his average exit velo compared to the rest of the league, my guess is that it would be higher, and that probably would account for why those batted balls are becoming hits.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely is a good thought because his strikeout percentage last year was a career low, 23.2%.
Right.
And his career, it's 28.8. So
Yeah.
putting that down substantially, that I mean, definitely just through the sheer odds of many more balls in play. And if you hit them hard, they're going to find more holes. And
Yeah.
especially to tie in what Kevin just said as well. This year without the shift, more balls in play just in general feels like a good thing.
Yeah, and he sort of reshaped himself in a way as a hitter last year too, where the power came down a little bit, the average went up, and I think we can also see, even if there is a little regression in one sense, I think it wouldn't be a shock to see some of the power come back a little more too. So I think that's a great call, and that is also exactly who I picked for MVP too, was Ian Happ, and I think that because basically looking around this roster, there's enough guys who you see where if they went big, they shouldn't be on this team by the end of the year. You know, like if Cody Bellinger happens to really snap back and do Cody Bellinger from a few years ago in some way, okay, great. But that also to me makes it less likely that he's even here for the whole year. So right. Ian Happ, I do think is going to be here for the whole year, whether he should be or not. I mean, I think I would like to have Ian Happ for many years as I hear about all the exciting Cubs outfield prospects coming up, and I'm excited about them too. I would love to put a bet out there over under how many of those prospects are better than Ian Happ over the next 3-4 years. I mean, is it over 1.5? I think that would be ambitious. So I think Ian Happ is you're going to look up at the end of the year, and there's a very good chance. I think there's really only two choices here, but I think Ian Happ is going to be your best offensive player at the end of the year. He's won his Gold Glove, as we know, out there and left, and so yeah, I think it's our Ian Happ and probably his final year.
I am going to go
this conversation for a second.
Yeah,
is that kind of popped into my head? One of the directions I wanted to go. Since you brought up our legion of outfield prospects, I just want to ask, since we've been hearing so much about how the Cubs minor league system is so much deeper, it puts her ass to sleep at this point. And since that's going to be something that Jed points to as justification for his continued existence as team president, I want to ask one question. Do the Cubs have one prospect in the system who is better than Jordan Walker?
I think as of right now, you would say no, ranking as of today. I think you would say.
What the hell are we doing?
Yeah,
what the hell are we doing?
I think you have a couple that could be, like if Kevin Alcantara reaches the heights he could reach, there, yeah, maybe. But as you say, the team that's expected to be significantly better than the Cubs this year, a team with a smaller budget, et cetera, still has the best prospect. So,
yeah, that's I'm just going to let my disgusted silence speak for itself.
But again, the fact that Ken dropped an Ice Cube reference this early in our season preview makes me so excited for what is yet to come. Adam, go ahead.
My prediction is contingent on health, which is always a risky way to start a sentence. But this is optimism. Maybe I would love for this to be the Nico year. I would really love for this to be him becoming like, Rhino Light, if you want to go that way. Oh, we got the Rhino shirt on. I mean, I think Ken doing the Rhino impression on the grass at Wrigley Field in the infield dirt, it's somehow symbolically it's helping to bridge the gap from Rhino to Nico. So I mean, we've seen flashes of what Nico can be, I think it's hard to argue with Hap, and I very much hope that he repeats last year and maybe adds another 10 home runs. But I think if we get a full season of Nico, I feel like he can be really special, and that's kind of it's both a bold prediction and an MVP prediction for this year.
And Nico is exactly the kind of hitter that we just talked about in terms of with the shift going away.
Yes.
I mean, even with the shift, he was one of the few that they wouldn't go into much of an exaggerated shift against him because that was his skill set. So this year, with emphasis on balls in play, like that is exactly his game. So it feels like all of baseball is kind of setting up for this to be kind of the year of Nico. And really, in my eyes, every day is the year of Nico.
Also, in your eyes.
Also, Nico, and Nico can be an easily forgotten guy because but if we look at, for instance, the Fangraphs leaderboards, the way they calculate WAR, Nico did lead the team last year. He was worth 4 WAR by Fangraphs measurements, and I think the other one, I think Baseball Reference maybe had Contreras higher, but Horner, Happ, and Contreras were, whatever way you slice it, easily the 3 most valuable Cubs hitters last year. But Nico's right there at the top, and not only does his hitting style fit what this year's going to be, but also I think we're going to see some more stealing with the way the pickoff rules are, the way the bases have been resized. I think maybe Nico gets over that 20 stolen base mark, and that adds some value too. So that makes a lot of sense.
Let's move on to more of a bummer category. Who do we think is due for regression this year? Why don't we start with Kevin this time? We'll go a little round robin.
Sure. I think it's a tough category because he wasn't even here before. So it's a tough prediction, but Dansby Swanson, I think, is due for regression. The Cubs have chosen to pay a guy at his peak after a almost outlierish offensive breakout. And I think Dansby Swanson is a very good player. I think he's fun. He seems like a cool guy, but more than 1/3 of Dansby's career wins above replacement were accumulated last year. He's been in the league for 6 seasons. More than 1/3 of it was from last year only. He's only been above average offensively twice. Also in his rookie year, if you count 129 at bats, I guess that would be 3 times, but only twice in 6 years has he been above average offensively. And I think basically, and this is as much as I love the guy I'm comparing him to, this is, I think, the best way to realistically think about Dansby Swanson is he's a more expensive, less fun Javi Baez. Is he has a lot of power, a lot of defense. He can run a little bit, but Javi's had 3 years of an OPS over 800 offensively, and these guys are only 1 year difference in age. 3 years over 800 OPS. Dansby's had 1, and we're coming off it. And I think him being a big money signing, I think the expectations are a little bit outsized based on that. When this is a Javi Baez profile. He's just not Javi Baez, and he costs more. So I'm excited to have him on the team, but I think he's due for not quite the 6 WAR great season he just had last year.
Right. I think statistically the most likely answer is Ian Happ. I hope that that's not the case, but when you're coming off an all-star and Gold Glove season, I think there's room for regression just because of how good his season was last year. To me, this is Ian Happ's Javi in 2019 year, where it's like, okay, you showed us what you can be. Can this be sustained? And I actually think that it can be. My pick for regression, it pains me to say this, and it's already regressing from a point that wasn't great. I'm afraid that the the hope for Kyle Hendricks is it's waning, and I think that this unfortunately may be the year where we're like, yeah, this is all that we've seen from this guy. And I would love to have a couple more like classic Hendricks starts mixed into that, but I'm afraid that we're just kind of at the tail end of things, and it makes my stomach hurt to even say this, but it's just like a feeling that I have.
He's the last one. He's the last one left from that 2016 team. And I mean, I think that's, as much as I love Hendricks and want to keep believing in him too, it's hard to believe until you see him again. You know, he's still building up that arm, and we're not going to see him at the beginning of the season. So, yeah, TBD on him.
Yeah, Hendricks is definitely kind of at the point of his career where it's now, okay, based on your numbers from the past couple of years and the injury, you do have to show us that you're still capable of being that pitcher that you were. To I guess add a little bit of maybe optimism to that, though, and I kind of think back to the 2016 to 2017 transition of Hendricks, where I think he dropped something like 2 miles per hour in velo, something like that, because he went from like 89 to about 87 with his fastball from 16 to 17, and everybody thought, oh, geez, is he done? And it turned out he was very much not done. He adapted and became kind of a de facto ace of the staff again in 2018, 2019, I want to say off the top of my head. Certainly put up respectable ERA plus numbers, 145 in 2017, 121, 127, 156 in 2020. So has shown in the past he's able to kind of adapt to, I guess we'll call them biological changes that mean he can't throw as hard as he used to anymore. So it's the ability might still be there, but yeah, at this point he does have to kind of show us that he's still capable of bringing it. That said, one of the games that I'm most excited to see in person, hopefully this year, is his first game back off the IL. That if it's at home, I will do everything in my power to get there and be part of the crowd that will hopefully show appreciation for him being the last guy.
That would be great. Yeah, that is a good sneaky as far as like what game do you look forward to most in the regular season this year? A returning Kyle Hendricks would be a really fun one to be there for. That's a good call.
Yeah. In terms of my answer for this, going in when I just put the list together, I'm also this time, Kevin, I'm echoing you with Dansby for all the reasons you mentioned. So rather than just kind of reiterate and spit all that out, let's go with Jed Hoyer. Why not?
Yeah, I think I think that's fair too, because, and this is jumping ahead a little bit to a prediction just in general, but I think the Cubs have been bad enough for long enough that I don't think he's going to have the guts to sell as much as he should at the deadline. I don't think he has the stomach for doing it again, even if I think the way the Cubs are going to be positioned, if you're not going to extend an Ian Happ and anyone else, I don't think he's going to have the stomach to sell as hard as he should have. And I mean, God, he blew the Contreras sale anyway last year. So it's a tough regression. I guess I'm betting that he'll do the exact same thing with more than one player this time.
Right.
Yeah, it's
he fumbled the bag, as the kids say.
Yes, the bigger bag. It's bigger bags to fumble now this season with the rule change.
It's fascinating to kind of see some of the Judge Leaguers still online when they talk about Happ or Horner going into the season. Extend him, and even some of the beat writers talk about, well, what will it take? Like the athletic guys have talked about, maybe Jed was just kidding when he said he uses the start of spring training as a deadline to extend. And every time I see that, I just go, you are adorable. We know what his game is at this point. Like it's at this point, like if the Cubs are capable of extending anyone, you have to show us that, because at this point, that's the assumption, is that if a guy is good and wants to be here, of course he's going to be gone, because what else do we have to go on by evidence?
Yeah, they don't. Apparently, none of the Cubs who are here have met the actuarial tables at the right point to ever be able to extend. And just maybe it's just the biggest pile of the least negotiable players in world history have all come through here at the same time. I mean, it's possible. Is it likely? I don't know. Probably not. But yeah.
Yeah, you see the Braves, you see what the Padres are able to do, and you just go, that must be nice.
Yeah, we should do a little bit of each, or any, but or what we're doing, none. So yeah.
All right, let's move on to breakout star. This is a fun one. Let's do one one hitter, one pitcher. I think that's a fun way to do it. If I may have the honor of starting this category, I'm going to start with Matt Mervis. I think when we hear about how Hosmer looks and kind of what our predictions are for Mr. Hosmer, I'd love to be wrong, but I think that he's likely on bought time in terms of the number of games he's going to be starting at first base. So I think there's a chance that we could see Mervis come up and have kind of like an Ian Happ entree into the league, where there are things that he needs to work on, but we see some of that big power. We see 15, 20 home runs from him depending on when he comes up. So Mervis is my offensive pick. And Wisniewski has looked incredible at the end of last year and in spring training. But my breakout star pick, and I am biased because we love him and he's a fan favorite. I think this is the year that people outside of Cubs world know the name Justin Steele.
I would love to see that, and I think Justin Steele is a very good pick to possibly be the Cubs' next year opening day starter, making that jump. At that point, he would have been one of the longest tenured guys in the rotation. Now, in the spring, what does spring mean? What does spring performance mean? Who knows? But Steele, along with Brandon Hughes, along with Keegan Thompson, are guys who the pitch lab apparently hasn't quite gotten right this spring. None of them have looked terribly good so far. But also, this is Steele broke into the league in the bullpen first, and then looked really good. And then it took him a small adjustment period to adjust to being a starter. Then put together a great year last year. But this is also new, coming in after a full season of starting for him. So I'm not too worried about that adjustment period. And I think I think Steele making that jump into possibly really solidifying himself as like a contending number 2 type pitcher, I think is exciting.
Yeah. Ken, who do you have for breakouts?
Hitting wise, both of these actually are going to be predictions much more with the heart than with the head, because honestly, the Cubs need more heart just in general. So hitting wise, I would really, really like the breakout star to be Trey Mancini. I think that him being just who he is in terms of what he's overcome. He beat fucking colon cancer, for God's sake. And the fact that he's made it back and is able to be a major league functional player at this point is miraculous. And breaking down his splits last year from before and after he was traded, Houston, the numbers are abominable. There's unfortunately no two ways about that. With Baltimore, the power isn't quite there. It's a 404 slug, and obviously you need much more of that from a corner outfielder or a first baseman. But the other numbers, not bad. 268 batting, 347 on base, ops plus of 113 overall. So there is something there. And I have nothing to go on other than I really, really want this to be the case. But I would love it if he were to kind of build on that Baltimore version of himself, and hopefully just as he builds his stamina back to something close to what he was before the cancer diagnosis. Like, what a great story that would be, and what a great way to kind of just get all of us a little more involved emotionally in this team. Like, and I can't think of a better face of the franchise for something like that.
He's a great dude who we have for in Chicago for 2 years, I believe the contract is right now. And in terms of recovery, as you said, he beat colon cancer, and he in the spring, I think numbers that do mean something. He's been hitting the ball well, but specifically his exit velo numbers have been higher than he's put up in several years. So the body takes a while to come back, and this is a guy who can hit a ball very hard and is hitting the ball like in a literal sense as hard as he ever has.
Yeah.
In terms of pitching, the head again says Hayden Wisniewski like Adam. You just have to look at the results right now. And I would say that honestly, my favorite Wisniewski game from last year was the one where he was the shakiest. The game against the Phillies toward the end of the year, where his command was not there and he was walking a whole bunch of guys, but every inning it would bend but not break. And I think the only guy who really tagged him hard was Schwarber, had a double off him late in the outing. But other than that, that's what impressed me the most about him. But I'm still going to go with Adbert, because I've been wanting for several years now, like for him to be the guy that his potential has indicated that he could be. And against right-handers, it's there. Against lefties, like if again, it's fully from the heart. But if there were some way to just like even be league average against lefties, what a pitcher you'd have at that point. So that's kind of the guy that I really want to be the breakout again for this year.
I love that. I believe with the Wisniewski start you're talking about, that was his Tyler Chatwood impression. Just nasty stuff, working yourself into bases loaded jams and taking 3 hours to get through the first 5 innings, giving up no runs but 11 runners.
What a man, the Chatwood era, what a purgatory of baseball watching the Tyler Chatwood,
Really
the
jumped
Jose
the market on that one.
Just yeah, really did. Really boning up the money at that point. For my breakouts, I'll say, I mean, I sort of had 2 categories here, so not to double dip really, but I had Wisniewski and Suzuki as the sort of more major league, like here already kinds of guys, because I think Suzuki, I think they're both guys who offer something that the Cubs offer very little of, which is a ceiling, which is an actual elite level bit of ability. And Wisniewski's a guy who snuck up. I think prospect people missed him. That does look like a really good trade that was pulled off last year for Efros. And Suzuki, I think just if this team's going to do anything, not only this year but next year, he sort of has to be a star. And I think he's going to be really, really good. For the sneakier side of this, I will say on the offensive side, Edwin Rios, the third baseman that the Cubs picked up, and I don't think he's going to make the All-Star team, but I think he's a guy who can put up sort of a Patrick Wisdom-y sort of line and offer power on a team that needs it. And Cam Sanders is, I think, as a relief prospect who's going to come up in the middle of the year and is just his vibe is an 80. He's nasty. He's talking shit on the mound. He's the son of a former big league player. Comes out at LSU, plays with his long hair on fire, and he's been hitting triple digits a few times. I think Cam Sanders is going to be a guy who we really like seeing coming in at the end of the game, who's also got late inning makeup.
I like it. Let's get to our this is a tough one. Let's get to our record predictions, and then we're going to kind of bounce around and do other random predictions and see what else we think is on the horizon for this team. So Ken, we're back to you. Start us off. What is the 2023 Cubs record going to be?
There's been so much talk going into this season of the fact that they went on such a good run over the last 2 months of 2022 and finished 38-31 after the All-Star break. And it's leading into, after the moves this offseason, it's going to be a massive improvement. And you're going to see the jump. This is next starts here is the thing. It's going to be the next great Cubs team, a phrase that definitely doesn't make me vomit in my mouth every time I hear it. And, I'll buy in. Sure, they're going to be improved from last year's records. That's why I'm picking the record at the end of this year, 75-87.
Yes, one more win. Is it one more win? Yes.
Jed's League, baby.
Jed's League. It sure is. I basically I can't believe this. I'm slightly more optimistic. I have them at 78 and 84, which fucking sucks. But what I think. One thing is I do believe this team is better than the team was last year. All you got to do is look around position to position. The team's better than it was last year. I would like to remind people that this division is dog shit, and they played more games against this absolute dog shit 2 teams losing 100 games division last year. And this year, the schedule's more balanced. The schedule is we're not playing our own division nearly as much, and that is bad news. So I think the team is better and is going to end up 78 and 84.
All right. Well, this is not the first time this has happened on one of these season preview episodes. I guess I'm the most optimistic here. I'm going to say that the Cubs are the reverse of what Kevin said. I think they're 84 and 78. Nice. Which is like just good enough to keep us engaged, but not good enough to get one of the wild card spots. I think it's a real like 2001 vibe where it's like we're not bad, but nobody thinks we're going to make any noise. And even if we somehow snuck into the playoffs, realistically, like you're not going to get past the top tier teams. But that is very much contingent on what Kevin suggested earlier, which is that like Jed being too chicken to sell off. Because if that happens, then like this is not a year that I would be comfortable betting on the over-under for the Cubs because I just don't know what they're going to do at the deadline. And that's I'm getting into one of my predictions here at some point, but I'm going to say I don't feel great about this prediction. But just for my own sanity, I'm going to predict an above 500 campaign, and I hope that my optimism pays off. But there's no reason to think that it will, if I'm being honest.
I would take a 2001 Cubs rerun in a heartbeat right now. That was a year that was fun to watch from the beginning until maybe late August when they started kind of taking on water. But that also means that, I don't know, Eric Hosmer is going to hit 64 home runs, which sure, I'll take that.
Who's our Ricky Gutierrez? It is, I guess we could have a Jameson Tyone maybe sliding into that John Lieber role, was it that year? I want to say.
Yeah, I'll take
John
that.
Lieber, friend of the pod.
Yeah.
Friend of the pod, and probably none of us if he hung out with us in real life. Turns out that guy's social media is a bummer.
Oh gosh, I haven't seen it. Fair enough.
He's from Arkansas, right? So
he's here. Is he behind me right now with an internet that's being run by hamsters on a wheel? Yeah.
So let me actually explain what I meant by that. What I was alluding to. I think that the only way that Jed sells is if he tries to pull off the Theo Epstein, like, I promise this is the last time we're doing this. Like when the Cubs traded Samardzija for Addison Russell in the package they got for Samardzija, and it was like publicly said, like, I know you're frustrated. I know you all like Samardzija and he's a great pitcher. This is the last time we're doing this to reload prospects, and then we're going to be all in. So I think unless Jed qualifies any of his moves, like let's say Bellinger has a really hot first half of the year, arguably it does make sense to trade him. He's not probably part of the Cubs' future. They're not going to sign him to a big extension, sure. But I think unless Jed does a lot of qualifying in terms of why he is doing things, especially if the Cubs are competitive, or even if they're like around 500, like in that kind of middle ground where you could add or you could sell off, I think he's going to need to make people understand what he's trying to do, because none of us really know at this point. So I think that's kind of my prediction is, like, if he does sell, he's going to have to justify it.
Yeah, it's at the time when they made the Samardzija trade, the Cubs had a real hole in the roster for piece of shit human beings. So
and boy, did we figure that out. Really did a good bit of shopping right there. I will say, I think that's a nice thing going into this year is I'm unaware of any explicitly piece of shit human beings on the Cubs right now, which is nice. It's that we haven't gone into every year like that. So
yeah. And actually, I kind of made reference to this in our Facebook chat, that I think after one of the games I talked about earlier, where I was kind of in one of the nadir of my fuck Jed moments, when the team was just kind of pissing me off about in that particular reason, I just started to randomly start making a list of reasons to continue rooting for the Cubs in spite of the awfulness of Jed. And I'm happy to report it's at 28 right now.
Hey.
And it's a pretty easy 28, honestly. They come readily to mind at, between Nico's hotness, Morel's Ernie-esque joy, Rhino getting a statue, Ian Happ commitment to self-improvement.
Yes.
There's still a whole lot that's there to kind of,
that's great.
Balance out the gloom.
Ken, if you have it written down, whether it's in a notes app or on paper, I would love to just tweet that list from the Away Games pod, sure. or we can end this podcast with you lightning rounding all the way through it. But that is a lovely bit of optimism and actual fun, good things to sort of list and look forward to this year. That is a great list. That could probably be its own podcast.
Yeah, I would be happy to burn through it at the end. So yeah, let's do
Hell
that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, any other, let's kind of bounce around, do some quick predictions, and then we'll wrap it up here. Kevin, do you have any kind of random outlier fun predictions or sad ones?
I really am trying to keep trying to not just be a bummer about things, although I don't think this is my fault. And for me, if you know me personally, I do think most things are my fault. So that is a different sort of thing for me. But I don't want, because people are listening to this because they're interested in the Cubs, and I get it. I'm on this podcast because I'm pretty interested in the Cubs. I've been doing this for, many years now at this point, as we were just saying. Has this recent run of things, do I talk to Adam about about quitting the podcast every several weeks? Yes, I do, because I don't want to just bum people out. But the first thing I wrote down was the Cubs will lose both Happ and Stroman for nothing. So, but I mean, because Stroman, I've never seen a Cub that, and when I say we don't have any explicit pieces of shit on the roster, I think maybe the leading guy in the clubhouse for me, and I don't want to sully anyone else or make anyone else feel committed to weighing in on this in any way, but I've had enough of anti-Semitic dog whistling from Marcus Stroman and the sort of fraudulent persona that guy puts forward, where he's like, I'm Mr. Fun and I'm open and I'll talk about anything until I hint at something hateful, and then I'll never address anything. I think it's a worse version of what Alex Bregman was doing, I think, where he was Mr. Open, Mr. YouTube channel until he cheated, and then he wasn't so outspoken anymore. Mm-hmm. So I think I've never seen a Cub that was going to be less on this team than Marcus Stroman, because he's either going to opt out if he's good, which I expect him to be good, and he's the opening day starter if people didn't see that named. And if the Cubs are good, they should trade him at the deadline because he's going to opt out anyway. So I think they're going to lose both of them for nothing. And I mean, maybe Bellinger will get dealt, but this is my positive is that I think Hosmer's gone by June and Mervis is up, and I think that sort of lines up with what you said, Adam, for breakout.
Let me give you a completely random fun prediction. I think that we get one more signature David Bodie moment this year.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, I'll take that.
I think at some point Bodie hits a big home run. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know what the stakes are going to be, but I would love to see him airplane his way around the bases one last time with a Santa Maria.
I would love that, and I'm going to predict that what's going to happen is the winning run's going to be on second, and David Bodie and his extreme explosive exit velocity is going to hit the first ever ground rule double off the plate. He's going to hammer that exit velo off right in front of his feet so hard that it bounces into the basket, and he airplanes it to second base and then makes the direct route home on a walk-off.
We are getting nostalgic for David Bodie. Wow.
We sure are. August 12th. I remember where I was.
Arguably the last great moment in this Cubs run.
Yeah.
It's really great.
Here's one I'll throw out here. I think that one of the Cubs outfield prospects that we've mentioned before, it's probably Brennan Davis, is going to get called up at some point this season, and Cubs internet is going to explode. We'll be talking about cookies and this year become the next great Cubs team. And in his first week, he's going to do something amazing that's going to make everybody on Twitter go nuts. And then at the end of the year, we'll realize he's going to be fine. And again, to kind of echo back to what I mentioned earlier, we'll compare his performance, whoever it is, to Jordan Walker, who I think is going to go off for St. Louis, and realize kind of exactly where the gap is between us and the Cardinals right now. And
Brennan Davis is an interesting one too, because I mean, this is a guy who was the MVP of the Futures game just a year and a half ago, I want to say, or so, and he obviously has dealt with a lot of difficult injuries, which you hope he's over. He had a back surgery, for Christ's sake. That's really difficult. The pure power is there, but it feels like it's going to go one way or the other, right? Where either this is sort of a guy who was a top 25 prospect and then hit the injuries and now will be a post-hype. He's finally healthy and comes back and really pops, and that would be very cool to see. He obviously has a ton of talent in there. Or, the injuries pile up and take away some of that ceiling. But this is, I think we're going to get to see Brennan Davis at the major league level finally this year. And finally, he's still very young. But I think that's going to be an interesting thing to look forward to. And again, it's reiterating something I said earlier. But I think it's just with all these prospects, I love prospects. They're a lot of fun. I think it's tough you got to be careful to not undervalue the guys who are already good when they're here, like an Ian Happ, for instance. But
honestly, we spent the last 3 or 4 years undervaluing all the guys we had here.
1,000,000%.
I got a fun one for you. I think between shorter games and inflation, thanks to Sleepy Joe, I think we see our first $20 beer sold at River's Grill.
Wow.
But there's good news. I think in an unprecedented move, the Hotel Zachary or Zachary Hotel, whatever it's called, gets torn down and is replaced by the old McDonald's.
I mean, God, what a symbolic return to the good times that would be.
If they're going to play like they did during the era of the old McDonald's, sure, that makes sense. Why not make it full circle?
I'm into it. And this is just on the prospect kick, and the prospects are, it is a deeper farm system. There's a lot of guys who are fun, yada yada. At some point, a big trade has to happen for major league stuff, and someone has to pop. But let me just a quick reality check about where the pitching is, because I know that's what has been talked about a lot, is that the Cubs finally can develop pitching. We're told now. Let me just tell you where the pitching ranked last year. In FWAR, Fangraphs WAR, 26th. In ERA, 20th. In fielding independent pitching, 25th. In strikeouts per nine, 16th. In walks per nine, 23rd. So there's been a lot of talk about pitching development. That's all in the bottom third or worse of the league. So it's time to see what's really here this year, and that can be an optimistic thing too, because we've seen little runs of development. This is the year to really see if there's any there, and when it comes to pitching.
Yeah.
And it feels like that they've also been kind of talking out of both sides of their mouth when it comes to hyping up their pitching staff. That, for the past couple of years, especially with the success at the end of last year, we've been hearing, okay, here comes the velo. Here come the velo guys. We're developing velo. And now that in the stories come out in spring training that, as you mentioned before, that Hughes and Steele and Thompson have had precipitous velo drops. Now we're having Tommy Hotovy in the Athletics today talking about Steele, saying, well, velocity doesn't matter for him. It's all about the slider and movement. And sure, I mean, given his strengths and the fact that he's working with Lester to develop his slider, yeah, you could absolutely see that being the case. But the fact of the matter is, either velo matters or it doesn't. And we're kind of getting both sides at the same time here, which makes me think it's kind of ass covering in case things take a step back and we start looking, does the pitch lab really work as well as you say it does?
Yeah. No, that's talking out both sides has been a lot of the last couple of years. I will say, as a fun thing to look forward to this year, just a specific thing about Justin Steele is I love pitchers with weirdness. I love that Kyle Ryan had the furthest release point towards first base when he was here. I like any sort of bizarre outlier, and Justin Steele has a weird gift for bad contact, and it's not the easiest gift to see, but it seems like it is sustainable. Something is weird there about the way he looks or the ball moves or whatever, that it seems like he can maybe be a consistent outperforming what it seems like he should be doing going forward. And just it's a super nerdy thing, but watching people hit poorly off Steele, I think is something I'm looking forward to this year.
And can I add, and it will sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth after what I just said, but I like watching pitchers who are elite at bad contact. Like, there's something to me that's more exciting about that, just creating that sense of frustration in the opposing lineup. The classic example is Maddox, but Hendricks is also really good at the sense of, why can't we hit this guy better?
Well, I think it's late movement usually.
Yeah. And I honestly, that to me is usually more exciting than just strikeout, walk, strikeout, walk.
Totally.
Yeah. I'm going to give you one last prediction that I forgot to mention, and then I think Kevin, if you're good to go, why don't we end this out with 28 things to be excited about, courtesy of Ken Schultz.
Sounds great.
A name we haven't thought about in a while. I love your prediction, Ken, about Alzolay. I think this is very much a make or break year for him. I mean, we've been down this road before, but now it's at least with him in the bullpen, which I think is certainly a good place for him to land. I would love to see Ethan Roberts closing on this team by the end of the year. That would be a ton of fun, and I think he has the stuff for it. I think he has the makeup for it. I certainly think he has the rec specs for it. So I'm very much rooting for him and his comeback.
Totally.
But, that's what I got. And then Ken, if you want to round things out with some rapid fire
Sure.
optimism and excitement.
Yes. Let me head to the list.
And I swear to God, if the hair up the middle of the infield is not on that list, I mean, my God, we got to add 29. That's,
you can do 29.
80 grade hair with Swanson and Nico.
Oh my God, yes. I mean, it essentially folds into some of what I'll be talking about. Yeah, but I mentioned some of this before, but reasons to still cheer for the Cubs in spite of the awfulness of Jed. Number one, 2023 is the year of the Rhino. Of course. Number 2, Nico's hotness. That's the top of my list. It might not be the top of yours, but it's definitely the top of mine. Number 3, Morel's Ernie-esque joy. And if they start him in the minors, it will only be hopefully a matter of weeks before he comes back and we have another moment like his first home run last year. Number 4, Hendricks will be returning this season, and I will be there for it.
Yes.
5, someday Jed will be fired, and I will be there to celebrate.
I predict 2024 on that, by the way. The end of 2024.
Please make that come true. My God. Number 6, Rhino's getting a statue. He gets on this list twice because that's my list. 7, Hap's commitment to self-improvement, which we talked about earlier, but bears reiterating. The fact that he went from being sent to AAA in 2019 to where he is now, and kind of figured this all out himself, is really something to just admire. Number 8, Tyon, talking like a big old baseball nerd every time they interview him. That's
yes.
A secret bit of awesome with him.
He's a fun one. He's another cancer survivor too, which God, what a history the Cubs have with those guys, from Rizzo to Lester to Tyon and Mancini now. Great.
Yeah. 9, in fact, is Mancini beat fucking colon cancer. Number 10, Pat and Ron reunited in Cooperstown.
Hall of Famer Pat Hughes. What a lovely bit of offseason news that was.
Yeah. I cannot wait for that speech. That's going to be something beautiful. Number 11, Dex and Ross reuniting before a game this spring.
Cool.
First time since 2016.
Yeah.
Number 12, Patrick Wisdom's ability to relate to kids. Kind of a secret bit of awesomeness. He was the one who hosted the For Kids Only session during the Cubs convention back in January.
Oh, cool.
And he is really good at talking to every kid on their level and not making it seem like he's talking down to them. If a kid got nervous, he knew, okay, I need to ask you about you before you ask me about me. He's also just really good at kind of bringing a light tone to the whole session. So just really impressive at how he's able to kind of make that basic niceness readily apparent. Number 13, Pride jerseys. Pride Night is going to be June 13th. The Cubs are, as part of their promotional package, giving out rainbow pinstripe jerseys. And on the back is Pride with number 23. This was a promotion.
Oh my God.
Yours truly.
That's perfect. I'm so happy for you. I'm happy for everybody. But God, getting it into the 23 on it is pretty perfect.
Sponsored by Chick-fil-A, surprisingly.
And true fact, we are getting a Chick-fil-A in Wrigleyville this year. So yeah, that's more Ricketts-esque than you can. Yeah. Anyway, number 14, Steele working with John Lester to take his game up a level.
Ooh.
Number 15, Dansby's grandpa. Yeah.
Dansby's grandpa, but always watching the Cubs. We heard from that from the press conference.
16, Willie Harris hitting the deck.
Yes. A fun coach. Always nice to have like a visibly fun coach. Also fun in clips online if you've seen him pop up a little bit in interviews lately.
Yeah, fun, also competent too. 17, the prospect of a Pedro Strop 7th inning stretch.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hats
18,
to the damn right.
Yes. 18, Adbert's hair. 19, Brandon Hughes using Jump as his entrance music. Number 20, again, a very Ken entry, interpreter toy, the Japanese word for snack.
Say as interpreter, yes. An early adapter to that, Ken Schultz.
Yep. Get on board, everybody. Number 21, Wisniewski's slider distracting us from his Twitter.
I'll forgive his Twitter like he won't forgive student loans.
22, JD's empty bag of fucks to give.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best. Yeah. So world-class announcers still. JD, Pat Hughes. Yeah.
Thank God for that. 23, Cody Bellinger's swing, thing of beauty when he connects. It's really chef's kiss. 24, the view from Wrigley's upper deck boxes as the sunset sets the sky on fire. Number 25, hitters actually speaking the name Keegan with fear. I wrote this before some of that stuff came out about his velo drop, but hopefully it's still there. Mm-hmm. Number 26, Assad treating Team USA's best hitters like little leaguers. 27, Dansby promising the Cubs are going to be total Red Stars hooligans with his wife Mallory playing for him.
Super fun.
Number 28, Keegan's dog Instagame is the best since Kevin Rizzo. And going to end with a brand new number 29, just thought of about 5 minutes ago. I want to go to a game with Kevin and Adam this year. How about that?
How about that? Let's fucking
do it. And I'm putting it into the universe at some point in our future. I would love to go to a World Baseball Classic game with the two of you. I think that would be a really cool trip to plan. But folks, we've done it. I think it was like an hour. We've covered all there is to cover. But at the end of the day, win or lose, we are 5 small days away as we record this from Chicago Cubs baseball is on the air, and that is never a bad thing.
No, it's gonna get more fun soon. No matter what, we're gonna start having a lot more fun.
Yes. Happy Year of the Rhino, guys.
Happy Year of the Rhino.
Follow Ken Schultz in all the places to follow Ken Schultz. Oh, what do we have?
Ooh, I'm working the soundboard, ready to party, baby.
I love it. Ken, anything you want to tell the people?
Check out outsports.com for my opening day preview publishing this Thursday. So we're going to be counting down the list of guys we're rooting for as LGBTQ sports fans this year. And there are a lot of them, from Liam Hendricks, get well soon, Liam, all the way to anybody batting against the Rays bullpen.
Yeah. Oh, talk about dog shit people. Absolutely cornering the market. Yes. Oh man, I can't wait to read that.
I love it. I meant to tell you, Ken, I'm going to, it was not intentional, but I'm going to Pride Night at Brooklyn Nets game. I happened to get random tickets with some friends of mine, and it's Pride Night, so I'm excited to see what they do. I hope it does not involve one of their players saying no homo in a press conference. That's happened about a month ago, but let's see how it is. But I'm excited to go. But otherwise, folks, go see Kevin live in person in Arkansas or any of the places that he is.
In Central Illinois next Friday, I believe.
Very
so
nice,
if you're near there, or Thomasboro, do I know where that is? It's near Champaign. I don't know. Find me at Kevin McCaff on all the things, at Away Games Pod on Twitter here.